You can share it on your Facebook or Instagram as soon as it goes live. So it'll be a minute or two before I get to you. I see that we are live. It worked, you guys.
Yay.
Yeah, Wendy-Laine. Well, you guys, this is episode number 968 of Comic Spot. Wendy, you weren't my first. That is one of the lines I've used about 968 times now. Works every time. Oh my gosh, you guys at home, thank you for paying attention to the interviews I put up. I put them up for you because I've seen a lot of people in 8 years go to a comedy show, and I've said, "Oh, who are you here to see?" And they'll say, "Oh, we just wanted to get out." And then they'll walk away shaking their heads, or I'll say to them afterwards, "So how'd you like it?" "Yeah, it was okay." And that's an okay way to go and experience live comedy or live entertainment. But if you get to know who someone is before their performance, it increases your likelihood of walking away. You make a connection with the person, then you go see them live. So then if they're an actor or a singer or, I don't know, a plate spinner, and you knew who they were before they got on stage, you go, yeah, and you're engaged already. So whatever they do, you get it. You know, if they're performing, that's just their persona. That's not who they are. But if you go in on the blind and don't know who the person is, you come away shaking your head sometimes. So I just like to encourage you, wherever you go to get to know performers, do it before you go to their show. It'll increase your odds of going to the right performer, someone that you can identify with or not, and you'll have a better experience if you pick out the people you're going to see. That's just a tip from an old lady. So there you are on that. I always have to give a nod to my paying sponsor. I have a sponsor. Can you believe it? After all the things I've said about you, William Clifton, I can't believe you're still sponsoring me. He's got a sense of humor. I was in the military in the 70s, 73 to 76. I was in the Army. And William Clifton started this amazing traveling comedy troupe called the Veterans of Comedy. So here's the drill. You're sitting at home and you're going, I wonder if a military veteran could be funny. Well, here's how you find out. You go to veteransofcomedy.com. You put that in the search bar. If you're older, what I'm saying is you type it in at the top. And then you type in veteransofcomedy.com and you see pages and pages of men. And you just keep scrolling till you get to my picture and you hire me. Kidding. Hire who you like. Connect with one of them. Shows their bios. Get to see little video clips. You never know. Somebody that used to serve our country might be able to serve up jokes. Just saying. Veteransofcomedy.com. Thank you so much for being a sponsor, William Clifton. So now, today is, like I said, interview number 968. She's sitting over there being so patient. We're going to get to know her. Just like I said, you're going to get to know Wendy-Laine Bailey. Wendy-Laine is how she goes by her first name, Wendy-Laine Bailey. So I'm going to read you the introduction that she sent me, because if you leave it to me, I'll go find some other Wendy-Laine Bailey, and I'll be talking about somebody that passed on 40 years ago, and I don't even know it. So you don't want me snooping on the internet. Trust me, never works out. I used to do that, Wendy-Laine. I used to get people's information, and they go, whoa, 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 whoa. That's not me. That's not me. Okay, here's the introduction for our esteemed guest who we're going to get to know this hour. Wendy-Laine Bailey is an actor, singer, writer, director, producer, and occasional ballroom dancer, shoe hoarder, and a very tired person. She's currently the Assistant Artistic Director of the United Solo Theater Festival, where her latest show, She Has Wings, featuring the music of Michelle Browerman, will debut on October 22nd at the Theater Row in New York City. Yes! When she's not attempting world domination through theater, she enjoys reading, hunting for vintage treasure, and an extremely codependent relationship with baked goods. Welcome to the stage, our guest for the hour, Wendy-Laine Bailey. Hi, Wendy-Laine.
Hi, thank you.
Yes, hi. So right now, tell everybody, you told me off camera, but tell everybody exactly where you are sitting in the world.
I am sitting in the world today in Montclair, New Jersey. I'm kind of, some people are bi-coastal. I'm kind of triangulated between New York, New Jersey, and the Berkshires right now, working on way too many projects, which is why the end of my bio says tired person.
Well, that's not easy to keep up 3 plates spinning in the air.
It's not. I mean, it's, you know, I'm running a theater festival. I'm writing and putting together a show. I'm also working on a production team for another show for the new school. So at any given moment, I have a lot, and I'm one of those people that believes you ride the horse while it's there. And I try never to say no to a project if I can, because I love to work. And I love the variety of my work.
You know, you just brought up something that is the winning combination for a winner, and that's to never say no. And people, like we grow up being told we have to do this, have to do that, and then we get older and we think we can say no. But in show business, you've got the winning combination. You shouldn't say no.
I've said yes to all kinds of things. Somebody called me up and they said they liked my visual aesthetic. They said, can you do set dressing for a commercial? And I'm like, okay. My rule is, I will say yes unless it's something that will kill me, or it's something I absolutely cannot do, like playing the tuba or the piano or being a choreographer. If it's really not in my skill set, I will say no. And sometimes you have to say no because you do have to find that balance with, okay, I've got 5 projects going. I can't possibly take on another one. But my philosophy is always look for a reason to say yes. And if it's not the project for you, that no will present itself as you start going, okay, why am I saying yes to this? So it's,
What about gut feeling? Do you get offered a project and feel okay with it, and then at night you grind and can't sleep and you're like, I'm going to go with my gut on this one?
Yeah, sometimes it's very clear. Somebody will offer me something and everything in my body goes, that's what you need to be doing. And sometimes I will look at it and I will be going, I think I need to do this. And, and I take that first step and all of a sudden the certainty comes. And then sometimes it's like I get that hitting a brick wall feeling like, don't do this. And it's one of those, and it doesn't happen often, but it's one of those, I don't know why I'm saying no to this, but something is telling me to say no. And I've learned to listen to that.
Yes.
And that's hard.
It is hard. Like I personally, I have this, okay, so without really going into it, I was raised to lie, cheat, and steal. It was okay. And then I had an awakening, an epiphany, and like my life is all about good karma, doing what's right, and trying to help people that are on the wrong path, not in a religious way, but just trying to let them see that I came out of that and I see what you're up to, and there's a better way than shitting on people, And so when somebody presents a project to me that has bad ethical values in it, and that becomes, I'm keenly aware because I used to be on the other side of the fence. I can't sleep at night if I'm going to partner with something that is, let's say a nonprofit comes to you and you get a sense that this nonprofit is nonsense. Like, doesn't that kind of, like, do you make those choices? You know what I'm talking
Oh yeah. I mean, there's always that, you try to do your due diligence, you listen to your gut, and, we're taught, and I think as women too, we're taught certain things, and we're taught to be compliant, and so when we start really listening, it takes, you kind of have to dig sometimes to really find out, okay, what is the voice in my head telling me, and what of that voice is all those old tapes that I've been raised with, and where am I in all of this? And yeah, I agree with you totally. um I was raised by a woman who was honest to a fault. And I find myself, especially when it's someone else's money, I'm like, this is, we do it this way. And I believe in being above board. And if I work with people that I feel are not, I won't do that anymore. That's not, it's icky.
Yeah.
And your life is too short.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get in it. And I know people that will do anything,
Yeah.
oh, well, it'll get me ahead. Well, not really.
Yeah. So you mentioned in the beginning, you mentioned that you're doing quite a few projects right now, and you ran by them pretty fast. What I'd like to have you do for those of us that are not real familiar with other performing arts other than stand-up, could you explain to us exactly what you're involved in specifically, and specifically what you're doing within each of those? Because I'm curious.
Sure. I mean, my life right now revolves around solo theater, which, and so for stand-up fans, this is it can be a great gateway drug into regular theater, because it's all one-person theater. And I run the United Solo Theater Festival. I'm the assistant artistic director. The artistic director is a wonderful man named Omar Sangbare, who comes from Poland. And in Europe, they have all these great traditions of theater festivals, and especially a lot of solo theater festivals. Solo theater is basically one person, one story, and an audience. And within that, within our festival, which is happening, we open October 3rd at Theater Row, little plug there, www.unitedsolo.org. And we have 80 shows coming in, and they're all single artists on stage. Some of them are musicals, some of them are dramas, some of them are comedies, some of them are stand-up, some of them are stand-up inflected with other pieces in them. Some of them, we've got actually more than a couple. We've got a lot of Shakespeare and classics. We've got 2 different solo Hamlets coming in. We've got one that's a young woman from the Midwest who is combining puppetry and talking about Hamlet and a mental health journey. And then we've got another male performer who is using only Shakespeare's text, but doing it as a solo performance of Hamlet. So you have all these wonderful things in solo theater, and it can be anything that you want to do. And what we found in COVID, especially, all of a sudden we're all at home. And all of us who are like, who haven't done solo pieces, I've done solo pieces before, but a lot of people hadn't. They kind of were like, okay, I'm not working. I want to create work for myself. And so a lot of people sat down and they wrote these amazing pieces. Some of them are very personal stories. Some of them, we have one coming in from London, which is called Under Heaven's Eyes. And it's all about the systemic and systematic killing of Black people in this country and in other countries. So you have, some amazing varieties of shows. And there, as many people as there are in the world, everybody has a story. And it's up to you how to tell it. And so that's, that's the majority of what I'm doing right now. I'm also a singer, so my solo show has a lot of music. It's my friend Michelle Browerman, who is an amazing songwriter. She's written for TV and film and musical theater. I'm doing, this is all her music, and we're using it to tell this. The song is the story. The show, thank you, is called She Has Wings. And it really is about those moments and choices in our life where we discover either we fly or we fall. And that choice again is up to us. So solo theater for me is a passion. It is my job, but it is my job because it is something that I love doing. And I love seeing artists discover the story they have to tell. And I love seeing audiences come and connect with that. And you probably know about this through stand-up, when they connect with you directly, there's nothing like that feeling. And they leave the theater and they may love the play and the performer and agree with everything they said, or they may walk out and go, well, you know what, I don't agree with that. This is what it made me feel. But they leave the theater talking. That's what we want. We don't want people leaving the theater going, yeah, it was a nice show. Yeah, I clapped, it was good. We want people talking and we want people connecting. And that's what solo theater does so beautifully. And almost every professional regional theater for the next couple of seasons has added more solo theater because it's safe with crazy COVID rates. And also budgets are strained right now, and solo theater is much more economical to produce. So I think we're seeing a boom in solo theater.
Well, let me ask you a question then,
Mm-hmm.
Wendy-Laine. So if I have a story to tell, like you said, we all do, I'm not special. And I've toyed with doing a one-woman show.
Mm-hmm.
A one-woman show kind of seems like shooting for the moon, but a solo performance doesn't. Am I crazy?
No, I think it's a question of semantics. It's the same thing, but it's the old joke about eating an elephant. You do it one bite at a time. And what I tell people is sit down, just start writing. Set a timer for 10 minutes a day, because if you set a timer, it turns off that little monster critic in your brain that goes, you can't do this. What are you thinking? And just write for 10 minutes. And don't think this is going to be a show, this is going to be anything. Just write whatever story is in your head. And then, a week goes by, 2 weeks, and you start looking back and you start seeing those germs of the story. And you just start figuring out what the story is, how you want to tell it. And there are wonderful people in the world too. There are directors and dramaturgs and different people that you can say, hey, or even just your friends, you can get them in a room and say, hey, I wrote this. Will you listen to it? Will you give me honest feedback? So it's something that seems almost unattainable, because especially for performers, we're used to going to people and asking for gigs. We're used to, okay, we're going to audition and we're going to get this gig. This is creating your own gig. And on the one level, it's wonderful and it's freeing. And on the other level, it's terrifying. And you've got to get through that terror and realize that this is, something that you need to say or tell.
So how many minutes do you keep a solo performance to, and what's the cost to submit, or like what's the process? Let's say I have a bunch of material. How much do I chop it into? Who do I submit it to? What's the cost?
Well, solo shows, the shows that we have this year run the gamut from about 25 minutes to about 2 hours. Personally, I like to keep mine to about an hour, less than an hour, one act, a long one act. Because that's generally, especially if it's your first show, it doesn't have to be 2 acts. It doesn't have to be long. It can be a really tight 30-minute show. That's fine. That's great. You know, very few people really, when you come down to it, you know, to sit through a 3-act solo show is a lot, unless it's maybe Patti LuPone or Ian McKellen or something like that. But even then, you know, you kind of want to keep it compact. And also that gives you more options when it comes to booking it. So, you know, it's, there is no hard and fast rule. Again, it's some, and I say this, you know, I say, I like a shorter show, I like an hour show or whatever, but then there's some, I've seen performers do 90 minutes and I've been like, wow, that's, you know, so, you know, you have to learn the rules before you can break the rules is my maxim. So that's kind of, you know, again, it's up to you. I would recommend for anybody starting out that they err on the side of brevity, because it's a lot to take on. Now, for festivals, there are all kinds of different festivals, and each festival has a different fee structure and a different, you know, we charge a submission fee, and then we charge a participation fee. The participation fee covers things like, you know, first of all, you're performing off Broadway in New York City, so you get, you know, a tech rehearsal and a night in a great theater. And if your show sells out, you get another date. And that's all covered under one participation fee. We also, our festival covers insurance for performers. We cover, we promote on our social medias. It covers admin fees, all kinds of, you know, all those little things that go into putting a show together. And doing it this way is a lot cheaper because, you know, to rent a venue in New York City is going to cost you a minimum of $1,000. That's bare minimum. And every venue will require you to go and find and buy at least 2 kinds of insurance. And then there are certain requirements for, you know, how the money is split up. So festivals are a really great way. And people look at festivals and they're like, well, why do I have to pay a participation fee? Why do I have to pay an entrance fee? And it is basically to cover the cost of hiring people to do all the things that you don't want to have to do to rent a venue and present.
That's amazing. And there's so many comedians that'll watch this and they'll go, why shouldn't I try this?
Yeah, we've had stand-ups. We've had plenty of stand-ups. I mean, if you go on our website, you can see, because we have all the participants going back. This is our 13th year. And you can see there's a wide variety. We've had people like Ed Asner did a show with us. You know, this year we've got Sharon Lawrence, who's an Emmy-nominated performer, and she's doing a show called The Shot, which is about Katharine Graham of the Washington Post, and it's produced by a theater out in California, and they're bringing it in. We are going to be their New York premiere, and we're really excited about it. It's a great show it's about domestic violence. It's a true story. So, you know, you can see people that you've seen on TV, you know, a lot of people that do theater in and around New York that have done Broadway, that have done, you know, everybody has Law and Order on their credits. And then some people that you haven't heard of. But you might look at that, you know, look at our show pages and go, oh, I really am interested in what this show is about. I want to see this.
No BS here. But if I lived in Manhattan, I would want to go to every single show you're putting on.
Oh, we have got some great shows. It's a great job. I get to see some wonderful theater. I get to meet some great people. And people who do solo theater are just, they're great. They love, not only are they excited about their shows, but they're excited to be part of an event where so many people are doing shows.
What a great place, you know, even for someone who's just thinking about doing solo performance, to come and get to know the people and watch and see the things they're doing.
And we also, you know, we have people that come and volunteer and usher, and, you know, because they want to be part of it. They, you know, I have a couple of people. I'm not a performer, but I want to be part of this. Can I volunteer? Can I, you know, and we love that. We love that people come, and people come year after year. I know people that will, you know, as soon as the schedule comes out, they're like, I'm coming to this one, and this one. And so it's a great combination of people who love solo theater and people who've never seen it before. And they came because their friend is doing it, or because they heard someone like me talking about it.
Yeah. So the solo shows, the solo festival is from what time to what time each year? And is it during the day or at night?
We run, our first show is November 4th, and our last show is our closing gala on our first show is October 4th, and our last show, sorry, my brain is a blender right now. Our last show is November 20th. It's our closing gala. And the schedule varies as we still have people. I've still gotten emails this week from people going, I missed the deadline this year. Can I possibly submit and squeeze in? So we will put shows in as long as we have space on our schedule. So some days there's one show, some days there's 4 shows. We do try, you know, we start off with a traditional theater schedule of Tuesday through Sunday with Wednesday matinee, Saturday matinee, and Sunday matinee. And then there's a 7 and an 8:30 almost every night. And then again, sometimes you'll find shows squeezed in at 4 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon, because that was, they've sold out 2 shows. We gave them another one, and so that was the time that we had available. We put theater in as long as we have room to put theater in.
That's so cool. So what's the name of your website? Because I want to come and volunteer next year.
Okay, it's unitedsolo.org. And the other thing is, for people who aren't in New York, we also have a first of its kind streaming service called United Solo Screen. And it's where we take people submit just like they do to the festival, and they're filmed solo pieces. And it's a Netflix for solo theater. Basically, you can subscribe for $5.99 a month and watch unlimited pieces, or you can go on and purchase an individual piece. And again, we have pieces from we have student pieces from emerging voices, we have established artists, there are dance pieces, there are storytelling pieces, there are, again, a wide variety of pieces. So if people think, well, I want to see what solo theater is about, they can go on there and watch and see what they like, see what people do. It's amazing what people will come up with. It's just amazing.
So I have to get with you, because once they start writing and get close to, as long as it's not looked down upon to only have 30 minutes. No. And start with 30 minutes. Because in comedy, if you've only got 5 or 10, that's not as cool as an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. And like, how do you get to that if you don't do it? So knowing that you have, I like your building blocks are much more attainable than even in stand-up. The pressure to have so much material is outrageous in comedy.
Yeah, and sometimes sometimes you get that really tight 20 minutes, you get it up on its feet, and then you start going, okay, I see where I want to expand this. Sometimes a piece is just a 20-minute piece, and it. Again, it's that gut thing we were talking about earlier. This I have told this story, I have told it well, the story is finished. But sometimes you get it up on its feet, and it's like, okay, I think there's more to be, I think there's more here. And then sometimes, that's when you go, okay, I think there's more here, but I need to talk to a director, or I need to talk to someone, who can give me a practice eye on this. But yeah, it's not, I think our shortest show this year is 25 minutes.
All right.
No, it's 20. Yeah, we have a 20-minute show. So, and it's great, as long as the audience is transported, it doesn't matter.
I
It's all
love
about
that.
story.
I love it so much. And it's not a short-term goal. It's like a something that you aspire to do, that you're going to do, and it could take a while, and there's no set.
I always say it took Lin-Manuel Miranda 8 years to write Hamilton. So if it takes you, 6 months to a year to write your 20 minutes, you're in good company. And again, you can be trying that material out too. You can, like I said, I have a writers group that, we meet occasionally. And this happened, I joined it during the pandemic. It's all women. I love them dearly. And we'll get together on Zoom. We're all in different parts of the country, and we'll read pieces. And, we'll say, oh yeah, I love that. That's a great story. But, I want to know more about her. I feel, and it's a wonderful thing, because we give each other very kind but very honest feedback. And so that's the other thing, is find your tribe, find your people that you can bounce ideas off of, that you can work with, that you can meet with. And some of those people will, like I said, they'll be writing groups and people that you get together with, and some of them will be people you pay to, give you advice because you've seen their work and you know that they know what they're doing, and you want that kind of guidance when you're ready for it.
Super. Let's transition now to talk about your comedy. I'm dying to hear. Now I get you as a performer. Now I want you to sell me on the fact that you also can do stand-up.
I've never done stand-up, actually. I've done cabaret, which is a little bit different. But
I love cabaret even more than I love stand-up.
Yeah. And it is, I tell people I am a Southern Jewish Baptist Mormon, and there are no therapists for that. Just not. I come from a very odd background, very Southern Gothic. I have relatives named Pumpkinhead and Aunt Minnie who wasn't. And, so most of my funny stuff comes from things that really happened to me and things that really happened in my life. I had my mother, who was not a professional performer in any way, was the funniest person I ever met. And, she taught me that anything can be survived if you've got a sense of humor. And I'm kind of cerebrally funny. I love smart comedians. I love Steve Martin. I love Eddie Izzard. I love that, just really, really smart. That's what excites me. And that is my goal when I'm trying to be funny. I want to be smart about it. I'm not going to go for the obvious joke or the crotch joke or what's going to get me the easy laugh. Sometimes I'll cheat and do it, but and I love funny songs. I do a lot of funny songs. There's always when I do a cabaret set, there's always a food song. There's always a funny food song. While I'm not a traditional stand-up, I certainly, I know how to be funny in front of an audience, and it saves me.
Yes. Let's talk a second about cabaret by itself. Some young people that watch this might not even know what, they'll nod their head, but they don't really. Talk to us about the art of cabaret and you.
Cabaret has gotten a bad rap in the last few years because they think of it as somebody, some hackneyed woman or guy in a with a boa draped around their neck, how's your steak? But really, cabaret is it is the stepping stone in some ways. A friend of mine calls it personal theater. It is very much like solo theater, except it's a little looser. A lot of cabaret is solo theater. A lot of solo theater starts in cabaret, but basically it's any performance that takes place in a small club or a small venue for an intimate audience. And it can be one performer or even a couple of performers. And, I grew up in the business of cabaret. I was taught by people like Julie Wilson, who is an amazing chanteuse, who would just get up on stage, and she was glorious and knew how to relate to an audience. Cabaret is basically a way of relating to an audience. It is not, there is no fourth wall. There is not singing above the audience's head or talking above the audience's head. The audience is in the room with you and you are with them. And it's all about that connection. It's a very intimate connection. A friend of mine used to say, and I used to laugh at this and I would go, oh, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, would say that Bruce Springsteen was cabaret.
What?
And I was like, that's ridiculous. He's a good songwriter, whatever. And then I saw Bruce Springsteen live. And what Bruce Springsteen does that makes people like me and my friends say they're cabaret is he is not up there being great rock god. He is singing and talking directly to you. He is making that direct, intimate connection. You feel like, and it's a parlor trick to an extent because we never really know, we all bring our best selves to the stage. But when you leave that man's presence, you feel like you've spent time with him. You feel like you've learned something about him. And not in an after school special, didn't we all learn not to be mean to each other? But, you feel like you know this person in some way. And that's what the best cabaret does. It gives you, an hour of great entertainment, but it's great entertainment that brings you in. You are not being passively entertained. Your emotions are involved.
Got it. I went and saw Lionel Richie at the Garden about 4 years ago, and there must have been, I don't know how many thousands of people there, and I felt like he was singing to me.
Yeah, exactly, because he knows he's not afraid of making that connection. And there are performers that are terrified. And it's not a professional, non-professional thing. There are people who've done lots of stage and television work, and they love it because they're a character and they can be on stage in a character. But when you put them on a cabaret stage for the first time and say, just be yourself, that is the most terrifying thing in the world.
In comedy right now, I'm gonna compare or contrast solo to comedy. In comedy right now, there's a real push to just be yourself and be authentic and talk about your real things and the audiences nowadays in comedy are coming in so hungry to really know you. And so I think that speaks to the larger thing going on with solo performances, that because of the situation in the world and how we've been cloistered with the pandemic, people are probably really pulling towards solo performance.
Yeah, all of these comedy, cabaret, solo theater, they're all interrelated. It's really hard for someone like me who kind of does everything to go, okay, this is only this, because you have tendrils, they are all very intimate performance arts. And we have all been so isolated for 2 years. And so, yes, right now, there are trends in all of these things. And there are also things like, there are also differences between American solo theater and European solo theater. American solo theater is very heavy on personal stories. I'm going to tell you a story about something that, this is going to be a theatrical piece about something that happened in my life. European solo theater is the opposite. They are not as personal and confessional. So, but as these, as our world gets smaller, you start seeing overlap and you start seeing different combinations. And I really do think that right now we are in a place where we want to really be, real, whatever real means to you. And it could be in 5 years, everybody is doing characters again. It's interesting because there are trends in this, just like there are trends in anything. And sometimes, even though the trend might be being real, every now and then you'll have someone break through who is a character or who is doing, prop comedy or whatever, because they're just that good. They're just so solid in what they do. And also that's them. That's who they are.
Yeah. I know that we have a comedian named Bob Zaney, and that's just his stage name because he's very zany. And he has a whole table behind him of props. and he doesn't come out and smash them like Gallagher or Carrot Top, but like they're like, to me, it kind of appears like they're visual aids to maybe remind him of what he's going to do next, or maybe what he feels like doing next. And he just grabs something and starts talking about it, and I think that's amazing that he can do that.
Yeah, and it's all about what you bring to the table. Any type of solo performance, again, comedy, cabaret, theater, is all about what you bring to the table, whether you are yourself or a character. And that could be, again, it's not him going, gee, wouldn't it be cool if I had props? There is some real solid reason behind that. So Steve Martin used to play still plays the banjo. He's a very good banjo player. And that was part of his comedy for a while, because that's who he is. He's not, he was a guy that did a lot of different things. Very smart, very well read, but very funny. And so he figured out how to mesh all those things that he was into a stand-up act.
Very good one.
Yes, a very good one. That's why he was so successful. Because
and then you've got like Billy Crystal that can do acting, he can do improv, he can do cabaret style, he can do one solo, or he can do he's on Broadway, or
he's done very well with
is that the Nederlander? Is that off Broadway?
No, he's on Broadway. That was the 700 something Sundays. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but yeah, I mean, he is another one that, he figured out what works for him and how to work it. And, you watch his stand up, he's characters, he's this, he's that. I mean, again, that's the beauty of these arts, is that you can do whatever you want.
And each separate, like improv helps stand up, and stand up helps you in acting. Like they all help each other.
Yeah, I mean, it's the more you have, and this is something when I talk to young performers, they, well, what should I want to be an actor, and I'm like, okay, this is the thing. You need to be able to do as much as possible. Don't just say, okay, I'm only going to act, or I'm only going to do drama. You need to be able, look at directing, look and be able to do as many things as possible, because that's what keeps you working. And that's what keeps you in contact with people in the business. I'm a rare bird in that I can do both things equally well. I can be on stage, but I also can work off stage. I've done just about everything you can do in a theater. I've produced, I've taught, I've run educational programs, and that's kept me in the business, and it's kept me in contact with people, so that when I'm doing another thing in another part of my life, I can, oh yeah, I work with so-and-so, I know them from there. I have a good relationship. I can call them for help. I can, or I can have them recommend me for something, or people will call me and they said, oh, remember me, we worked on I need this. So, and doing something like background work on film, better than a day at McDonald's. And I've done that. I've done background, I did background work because I thought, okay, I haven't done a lot of film. I want to see what that's like. So I'm going to, do some background gigs and kind of observe, because it's a great chance to observe and see if that's something I want to do.
Absolutely.
And again, it goes back to saying yes. Don't be a snob.
I think that a lot of, junior high and high schoolers that are in not sure of their path would benefit from coming and going to be exposed to your solo performance, like all of them, just to open up their mind to the possibilities in the arts.
Yeah, it's the social media is both a wonderful thing and a terrible thing. So it's wonderful because it gives people a voice, and it gives people who have not had a voice to this point, because you are older, or you don't fit the physical type, or whatever reason, it gives you, now you are forced, now these voices are forced to be reckoned with because of social media. But at the same time, it can also give a very false reading of what you have to do to have a life in the arts. It makes it look deceptively easy.
Wow.
And it's not easy. And somebody that's making money on TikTok, they are approaching it like their job. They're spending 8 hours a day working. They're out there making contacts. They're creating content. And it's not that somebody saw a video. I mean, that happens very occasionally, but it's like, you'd be more likely to win the lottery.
Totally.
People who have success in the arts have success because they work. And I've always said, my one real talent is that I know how to work hard.
Wow.
Because that's what makes everything work. Yeah. That's what makes everything else work. If you can't, we're all given certain gifts. And it's not about, I've had people go, oh, it must be nice just to get up in the morning and sing. No, that's not what happens. I work hard, and I have to work to keep what I've got, and I have to work to make more of what I've got. So it's not the gift, it's what you do with it. And it's how hard you work with it that matters.
Love that. That's so encouraging. When you hear something that feeds your soul, right, people? Oh my gosh, this is just feeding my soul. So I hope that
good.
you've gained. Yeah, it is. It's really encouraging information. So talk to us a little bit before we go. I want to hear about what exactly you're doing in the Berkshires. We didn't cover the Berkshires.
Oh, well, that is Omar, who runs, who founded United Solo, is the head of the theater department at Williams College. And so I work up there sometimes because right now, as I've said, we're putting together a festival and putting on a show. So sometimes we will work up there, and because that gives us time to rehearse uninterrupted and things like that. And then, we come to the city and it's all crazy all the time. So it's nice that we, it's like a little artist retreat. He goes, he teaches his classes, and then we work on festival and we rehearse. And then we're kind of ready to kind of girded our loins. We're going into the city now. We're going to go do our stuff. So it's really lovely. And I've gotten to see some great theater this summer. I got to see some things at Williamstown Theater Festival. I got to see some wonderful solo shows. There's a new theater up there that has a small solo fest that had like 4 different solo shows. I think it's called Berkshire Center Theater. They had a great little mini solo fest. And so it was a really great, like I said, it's a great retreat, so that I can do my other work. Because sometimes when I'm here, it's, oh, I've got to do this. Oh, I've got to do that, and sometimes you just have to isolate to get that work done.
Totally. I get that. So tell people who you are when you put aside all of what you're accomplishing in the arts. I see some fine art behind you. Are you an art connoisseur?
That painting is by my sister-in-law, who's an artist named Laura Gunn. She is an amazing painter, and she actually has had some stuff bought by places like West Elm and interior decorators. She's just wonderful. So that one is one I purchased from her. I have another one of hers in my bedroom. I can't draw stick people. I admire anybody that can, that can draw or paint. My secret, well, I have 2 secret jobs that I would have done if I could have. One would have been a designer, a fashion designer, but I can't draw. And, and the other would have been a ballet dancer, but I have very flat feet and I'm too tall. So
how tall are you?
I am 5'7", which is not hugely tall, but it's too tall for most ballet dancers. And like I said, I have no arch in my foot. So my roommates, when I was in school in New York, were both ballet dancers, and they had those beautiful arch feet and just were gorgeous. And they were tiny. They all came up to here on me. I am, when I'm not working, and I am I can be extremely lazy. I have a friend who owns a vintage store. I go and I hang out with him, and I get to play in the pretty clothes. And my husband and I love to, go on adventures. We'll get in the car. We love the fall because we're like, oh, it's a beautiful day. Let's get in the car and we'll just drive and go to a town and explore. And I love listening to music. I love discovering new things. I love discovering new artists. I'm a crazy reader. I love to read. That for me has been my best education in life. And so I will read anything. We just moved, and we downsized. My son's grown, and we're like, we had a 100-year-old house. It was crazy. We don't have the time to baby. If you've had an old house, we were just like, we don't have time to baby the house anymore. So we downsized to an apartment, and one of the hardest things was downsizing our book collection. And I still, in the next room, we've got, the walls are lined with shelves, and they're just like, I'm just like, I just need to stuff one more book in this shelf and we'll be done. So books and clothes are my vice, especially shoes.
I love vintage shopping like you. When I saw that, I thought, oh yeah, vintage shopping.
Yeah, and I'm lucky to have a friend who owns a vintage shop who lets me come in and just run rampant through the racks and just like, oh, look, I'm just. So, and it's, for me, fashion is a creative outlet. It's something, and it's a way of expressing, again, it goes back to, it's a way of expressing myself and a way of expressing who I am. So I am, anything that sparks my creativity is what I do when I'm not napping.
You mentioned the word chanteuse, and
yes.
Again, some people in their 30s and 40s and younger wouldn't know what that word is without Googling it. So I know there's a well-known comedian out at New York and LA now named Maya DeGiorgio, and her mother was Sylvia Copeland, who was quite an accomplished chanteuse. Talk to us about, I'm not sure I know what a chanteuse is.
Oh, chanteuse is basically, it's a French term for a female singer, and it has come to mean someone, it's not just any, to me, and this is the Wendy-Laine Bailey personal definition. It's not just any singer. It's a singer who is of great elegance and grace, and who really, exudes confidence and in themselves, and can stand on the stage with nothing but a spotlight on them and just tell that story, whatever it is. It's not just about the notes. If you're a true chanteuse, you are telling that story to that audience. And it goes back to singers like Edith Piaf and Josephine Baker and my friend Julie Wilson. And, it's kind of, to me, I always think of that classic woman in the spotlight, Rosemary Clooney, who's just standing there and they're just singing that song and doing it so well and so beautifully. And it comes from heart and head, and you just go along, you'll go anywhere that they want to take you.
What would you think if I wanted to identify Judy Garland as a chanteuse? Am I crazy?
No, because Garland, you remember those moments when Garland sat down on the stage and she just sang, and it came from here, and her audience was mesmerized. There are women doing that now. There are some, there are tons of female singers who can, but very few chanteuses. Lady Gaga and the stuff she does with Tony Bennett, she is amazingly good, and she does fall into that tradition when she's doing that, when she did those albums with Tony Bennett. Streisand is in the chanteuse mold.
Don't you love Barbara Streisand?
Yes. I mean, well, again, she's, you think of the pantheon of female singers, and that sound, first of all, and those early recordings where her heart was just like, on the studio floor. And she is an example for us all. She also, she bucked a system that didn't like women directors, that, that didn't, oh, you're too loud, you're too bossy, you're not pretty enough, you're not this, you're not that. And she just, nope, I know what I'm doing, and barreled ahead. And how can you not love that? She's made a place for a lot of us.
Yes, she has. What is it that you would like to say in closing? In a minute, I'll ask you how people can follow you and exactly how to support you, what you have coming up. But what would you like to say to people to be kinder, or how to be more supportive to the arts, or how to come out of a pandemic as a better person, how not to be a schmuck? What do you have?
Well, I think theater and the arts teaches us really well how not to be a schmuck. If you really, if you go into it with an open heart and mind, I think the arts, people are not convinced by facts and figures. People are convinced by stories, and the arts are driven by stories. And I can think of so many instances where I was sitting in a theater and I was presented with something that may have made me uncomfortable at first because it was not my experience. And yet, as I let myself be involved in that story, and George Wolfe has it, the director George Wolfe talks about, when you're in a movie and you're involved, you sit back in your seat. But in the theater, when you're involved, you come forward. And I can remember so many performances where I was just drawn in, and at the end, I was like, I understand this now. This is not my experience, but now I understand it. Now I have empathy for this. Now this is part of me, and I will never look at this the same way again. And that's the power of the arts.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
So tell us what you have coming up and where you can use some following.
Let's see. I have a small gig coming up if you happen to be in Morristown, New Jersey on September 25th. I am taking part in something called Music at the Mansion. It's me and two other wonderful singers. Karina Sowers Adler is an amazing singer, and she puts all these events together. It's a series of performers from New York City that come to this gorgeous Unitarian church in Morristown. And it's another wonderful singer and songwriter named Rosemary Lore. And we're each going to be doing a little mini set for people. And it's a great way to spend an afternoon in a beautiful setting. And they have wine and cheese afterwards, so you can come and nosh and have a good time. And then in November, we've actually moved my show date on November 20th. I will be performing at the United Solo Theater Festival with my show, She Has Wings, featuring the music of Michelle Browerman, directed by our founder and artistic director, Omar Sangari, with images by a wonderful photographer named Bill Westmoreland, who you asked me to send you some photos, and those are Bill's photos that I sent. And so those are my two big things coming up. You can follow me. I have a website, WendyLaneBailey.com. Also, I'm on Instagram. I'm much more active on Instagram than I have my own website these days, and that's Wendy-Laine Bailey on Instagram. And I'm on Facebook, so I'm on all the socials. Twitter, I think I'm at Wendy-Laine B on Twitter. So follow me and talk to me. Chime in, tell me what you think. Although I ask you that you do it civilly. I'm very big on that. I'm like, I don't mind if you don't agree with something I say. I don't mind if you have a different opinion, but I do expect you to express yourself with courtesy, because I'm a Southern girl at heart. I was born in Louisiana and raised between Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, and Virginia. And my mother was big on manners. So I believe that curiosity, a good education, meaning being not necessarily book education, but being well-read, being, curious about the world, and good manners will take you anywhere you want to go in life.
Wow, that's great encouragement. Yes, it does. Thank you so much. Wendy-Laine Bailey, thank you for coming on and your time and sharing your life and your passion and educating me and others. Thank you so much.
Yes, and I want to hear from you about your show. I expect a report in another week or so about, exactly what you're doing. I want to see
got
progress.
I have 2 topics I have to talk about before I kick the bucket.
Okay, you get started. I'll check in.
Okay, thank you,
All right.
Wendy-Laine.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.